Hi there, if you've been following this channel for a while, you already know I actually prefer cold weather camping. There's just something about winter camping, the quiet, the crisp air, the no bugs, and let's be honest here, it feels like you've got the entire forest to yourself. You know what I'm saying? Now, as we're heading into the winter season, a lot of you have been asking what makes a good cold weather tent. So in this video, we're going to break down that very subject. We're going to talk about what makes the most sense and what matters the most. Actually, I think that makes the same. Anyways, how to stay warm safely, and I'm going to share with you my thoughts on 5 years of testing winter tents, including the BREG UP-5, UP-7, and the Hexagon tent. Now, I do want to say this here. As you're listening to me here jibber jabber about the UP-5, UP-7, and Hexagon tent, because over the last handful of years, if you've watched any of my videos in the past, you know I speak very highly of these tents. But I do want to warn you, there are knockoffs out there that utilize the UP-5, UP-7, and Hexagon brand names. So if you want an authentic one of these BREG tents, you got to go to bregcanada.com to be able to pick these things up. Otherwise, you're buying something that's manufactured in China. It's not the authentic deal, and it's not designed with the rigorous engineering that BREG puts in these things. Anyways, I digress. So anyways, where I was leading with this, these tents I've said over the years, are also the tents that I feel have the best thermal properties. So I'm going to use them as a point of reference in this video here. Anyways, all of these tents have spent plenty of cold nights with me up in Big Bear and beyond. So let's start with the basics. Let's talk about why a cold weather tent matters most. Now, obviously, there's a tremendous lot of three-season tents, which are good for summer, spring, and fall. But once you throw in snow, wind, or below freezing temperatures, and that's where things get real. A proper four-season tent is built to handle heavy snow loads, wind gusts, that constant moisture that would collapse a lighter tent. I've been in Big Bear with 50-mile-an-hour gusts and snow piling upside, and that's when you find out what your tent is really made of. So let's talk about one of the biggest things that separates a true cold weather tent from one of those summer camping tents, and that is the structure and material. So when temperatures drop and the winds start howling, the strength of your tent's frame isn't just about convenience, friends. It's about safety and comfort. Now, you want a tent that can handle the weight of the snow, resist bending under strong gusts, and stay stable when lesser tents really start to fold. And that's why cold weather tents typically use steel or aircraft grade aluminum poles instead of fiberglass. Now, these metals are strong, durable, and don't become brittle in freezing temperatures. And then we have the fabric. Cold weather conditions demand more than thin nylon. You're looking for heavy duty canvas or thick Oxford style materials. Why is that, you say, Alex? Well, these materials can trap heat, shed snow, and block wind. Reinforced stitching on top of that, waterproof coatings, and properly sealed seams all make the difference between waking up dry and waking up with ice all over your sleeping bag. Take tents like, again, the BREG 5, the UP-7, or the Hexagon as great examples. They use B95 Tango 1. I don't know why I said Tango. Anyways, B95 T1 aluminum alloy poles and Oxford 300D fabric. Now, these materials combine to create a shelter that's not just tough, but dependable in harsh conditions as well. But the principle applies across the board. A tent built with quality materials in a strong frame will always outperform a cheaper one with the weather or when the weather turns ugly. Now, I've seen snow pile up on my tent roof, winds roaring outside and everything holding firm, warm, dry, and stable. And that's what a good structured materials buys you. Peace of mind when nature decides to test your setup. Now, when you're camping in freezing temperatures, your tent isn't just a shelter. It's your first line of defense against the cold. A well-insulated tent helps trap the warmth of your body in your heater, if you're using one, generates. So you're not constantly losing heat through thin fabrics and seams. And that's where a double wall construction really shines. And that's actually the secret sauce to these BREG tents that I keep referencing here. The gap, the air gap there between the inner and the outer layers is probably one of my favorite features on this tent is the thermal properties. You have an outer wall, inner wall, and because of that, in the winter, there is not another tent that I've tested that comes anywhere near the thermal properties that this tent has. Slowing down the heat loss and making a monstrous difference on nights when the temperatures dip down into the teens or, for that matter, lower. But insulation alone isn't enough. You also need proper ventilation. Cold air outside, warm air inside, naturally, this creates condensation. And you guys have heard me gripe about this in the past. I can't stand condensation. I hate moisture. And without adjustable vents, that moisture, it can really build up fast. Now, the best colder weather tents let you fine-tune airflow to strike a balance between staying warm and staying dry. The key is, friends, smart design. Some models like the BREG Hexagon use shape and structure to circulate warm air evenly across the walls and ceiling. In setups like this, it's not unusual to see inside temperatures hold 15 to 20 degrees warmer than outside. I've seen this many times when I've gone out, even without heaters. You notice just with your body heat, your breath inside of there, I know it smells funky in the morning, but it's gonna be a little warmer inside there than outside. Even when snow is on the ground, good insulation and heat retention aren't just comfort features here, they're what you want, or it's what keeps you warm, dry, and safe when the weather outside is anything but friendly. Now, let's move on to the part that everyone loves talking about, heating. For the last 5 years, if you've followed this channel right here, you know I've tested a tremendous amount of diesel heaters and all sorts of heaters, and I'm hooked on diesel heaters right now. Here's the question I get all the time. How do you stay warm in those tents without freezing or setting yourself on fire? Well, during the day, this is where I'm a bit of a hybrid. During the day, I use a good old-fashioned wood stove. There's something about that crackle, that smell. I love the smell of wood burning. It just feels right. Plus, it dries your gear, gives you that classic camp vibe, and because BREG does it right. So, I do use, again, I've tested a number of different wood stoves over the years, and I keep going back to BREG. Actually, they just came out with a new wood stove that actually, my last time up at Big Bear, I was going to, if you watched the last video, I was going to test it out up there. I had everything all set up. This thing is beautiful. And actually, I'll put it on the screen right here. Long story cut short, there was an incident up in the mountain there. Apparently, I just had, my intuition told me to call the fire department and just to check to see if I could use the wood stove up there. And unfortunately, because of the incident that took place earlier that day, I was not able to fire this thing up. But our wet season is right around the corner, so I'm looking forward to getting up there. BREG really does. There's a lot of really good wood stoves out there, but man, BREG does a great job with the construction, material used, and just the overall engineering that they put into these wood stoves. Anyways, the chimney port in the roof has a heat-resistant stainless steel ring, and I'm referring to these BREG tents here that I mentioned a few times in this video. And this eliminates the possibility of contact between the stovepipe and the tent fabric. So what we're talking about here is safety. Plus, heat-resistant fabric is used in the tent to improve fire safety. Again, you can see the continuity with all this. But then when nighttime comes, this is where I switch over to my diesel heater. Why, Alex? Well, because hell, I'm too lazy to wake up every couple hours and toss in more logs into the stove, and which is ironic as I tell that, because at my age, well, I still wake up dozens of times every night, and it's just, well, it's not for the firewood. The diesel heater keeps everything steady, safe, and lets me actually sleep through the night. Now, my heater, which is a 4 kilowatt model I picked up from Sparks Overland. Now, this is something that we're going to be talking a lot more here in subsequent videos. Now, if you watched my last video, you might have a little teaser as far as what's happening. Now, over the years, I've said to you guys many times, my loyalty is not with a particular manufacturer or partner of ours, it's with you. So if a company comes out with a better product, that is, whether it's lighter, more efficient, it's more value, whatever the case may be, I'm going to lean into that particular product. And a good example of this is, and I'm going to, again, I'll have a full video coming out on this here shortly, but Sparks Overland, this is my second season testing out both their gas and diesel heaters. And many know for years I've been a diehard Planar. Planar makes a phenomenal heater, but here's the thing. Sparks Overland, they just raised the bar. And in some subsequent videos that you're going to see coming out here, you're going to see exactly what they've done here. And I'll just give you a teaser here from a size standpoint, output standpoint. Yeah, one of the biggest pet peeves I had with my Planar, it was actually one of the, whenever I went driving around with it, I always had to put Gorilla Tape or duct tape over the fuel cap on the top to prevent the fuel from sloshing all over it. If you've ever worked around diesel fuel, once that gets out, it is a mess, it stinks, and it's a pain in the rear end to get out and so forth. But at any rate, so these days, I'm using the Sparks Overland. They're, depending upon what my mood for the day. Again, I've been testing out their gas and both their diesel, and their 4 kilowatt model, and generally about 14,000 BTU output, and it heats up the tents fast. And not only fast, because you have the fire, generally at this point of night, I'll turn on the heater, or the diesel heater or gas heater, whichever one I'm using. Generally around 11, 12 o'clock at night, I've loaded the fire up for one final time, and what will happen is the fire is going to go out probably around 2 a.m. or so. And the diesel heater, which I'll usually stick on about halfway, half throttle or so forth, half throttle, whatever, half the setting on it, and it's going to keep the tent in the 60s, which is very comfortable through the night. Now, the great thing about these heaters is because they come in gas or diesel, so if you drive a diesel, well, you can pick up a diesel heater. If you drive a gas truck, well, you can get the gas version of the heater. So therefore, you're just bringing out one fuel source and so forth, which works out fantastic. But you have a thermostat that you're able to run inside of the tent, and you're able to control everything, or they have an app that you can actually use as well. Alrighty, safety first. All right, now that we got the heating out of the way, let's shift gears and talk about space. Now, in cold, everything takes up a lot more room. You've got extra gear, thicker sleeping bags, boots drying by the stove, and maybe even a buddy or two joining in. You need a tent that gives you enough space to move around comfortably without losing heat efficiency. That's why I love the BREG lineup. Now, the UP-5, which is the tent that I've tested the longest, over 5 years, is perfect for solo trips or two-person setups, while the UP-7 adds that extra room for gear or family. Now, the Hexagon, this is like the Taj Mahal. This thing is huge, and boy, I have a tough call. I've been asked by many of you guys, well, which of the BREG tents do I like the most? That is such a tough call. That is really, really tough. The Hexagon is tough to beat because you have these big, massive windows. You have the big, huge space. This is BREG's flagship. But the dome style with the UP-5 and the UP-7, I'm always on the fence. Anyways, getting back to this, without feeling like you're heating up a mansion, the point that I'm making here, all of these designs have smart layouts that make living inside for a few days surprisingly very easy. So let's wrap this up here. What should you look for in a good all-season hot tent, all-season tent? Well, let's sum it up here. Well, strong frame, as we discussed earlier, steel or aluminum, durable heavy fabric that can take a beating, double wall design for insulation. That's going to give you those thermal properties that these tents bring to the table. Good ventilation to control condensation, and safe, efficient heating options like a wood stove, diesel heater, or a gas heater like the new Sparks Overland one. And after 5 years of winter testing, well, the BREG UP-5, the UP-7 Hexagon continue to be my go-to winter tents. They've survived snowstorms, high wind storms, and California mountain winters without a hitch. Now, if you want to see more of these tents in action, well, check out my other full reviews, linked below. And also, you'll find side-by-side test heating setups and a few snowy nights thrown in there for fun. And if you're new to all of this, well, Be certain to hit the like button, subscribe button down below, hit all notifications so you don't miss any future episodes or videos that we may have. So that, I think that's going to be it for me, guys. Well, hey, this was fun to do. We've been, again, getting a lot of questions from you guys in terms of cold weather camping and so forth. And this just happens to be one of those areas that I absolutely, I resonate with cold weather camping. It is so much fun. If you've not tried it, if you happen to be one of those that have not tried it, I encourage you to get out there and give it a go. Just, think about things first. Maybe go out for a single night first. See what you think. Make sure you bring enough heat, the heating source, proper clothing. If you're heading out where potential snow, again, check the weather reports. You make sure you have the buddy system. People know where you are. Bring chains, bring emergency water, rations. Just think about it, depending upon where you're going and so forth. But friends, well, heck, that is going to wrap up this video here. This was a lot of fun. So hopefully I answered a lot of your questions. If there are additional questions that you have on winter camping, tent suggestions, wood stove or diesel heaters. Now the wood stove, I will have on that new BREG wood stove that I was just playing around with up in Big Bear a few weeks ago. I will have a full review coming up on that here shortly. And of course, the Sparks Overland, both their diesel and their gas heaters, we have some pretty cool videos coming around the corner as well, showcasing the features with these buggers as well. And I'll also lift up the veil so you can see why this is our recommended heater for 2025 and how they were able to knock Planar off that perch that Planar has been sitting on for the last 5 years. At any rate, that's going to be it for me, friends. So I'm going to be shutting off the cameras, and I will see you in the next video. So anyways, leave some comments down below if you have any questions, and I'll answer each and every one of them, but I'll see you in the next video.